Early one chilly morning, Alex, while driving to work on a usually quiet highway, noticed a stray dog limping near the roadside. Concerned, he pulled over, approached cautiously, and spotted a worn collar around its neck. As he read the tags, a wave of emotion overcame him. Alex's heart sank as he read what was written on the collar, and he immediately took action. However, he would come to regret it as he found out the unbelievable truth about the dog. It immediately became clear to Alex that despite its horrible appearance, this dog was not a stray at all. Alex's eyes filled with tears, and he was determined to help the dog find its owner. Besides, it was visibly hurt, and it needed help. However, Alex had no idea that his kind decision would lead him to a shocking discovery that would end up changing his life. As Alex took the dog to a vet and tracked down its owner, he thought that their story was finished, and he had done his part. The dog would get the medical care it needed and return to its home. Strangely enough, he was very wrong about that. This was only the beginning of a bizarre story that he would never forget. When Alex figured out the truth about the stray dog, he went completely pale, struggling to grasp the reality of the situation. However, the real shock came when he found out who the dog's actual owner was. But what was written on the dog's collar that was so surprising? Why was this dog wandering the streets alone? And who really owned this dog? As soon as Alex spotted the dog, he slowed down and parked his car on the side of the road. The dog didn't look well, and it was limping with one paw. "You poor thing," Alex said quietly as he stepped out of the car. He didn't want to scare the dog, so he approached it very slowly and without any sudden movements. And it worked! Just a few moments later, Alex was close enough to the dog to pet it. He stretched out his hand, closely watching the dog's reaction, and when it didn't bark or growl, he finally petted it. The dog immediately came closer to him and started wagging its tail. "Are you hurt, buddy?" Alex said with a gentle voice, wanting to take a closer look at its paw. He let the dog lick his one hand while he tried to gently touch the injured paw with his other. But the dog immediately started growling softly, making clear to Alex that it didn't like that. "All right, the paw's off limits then," Alex mumbled as he pulled back his hand. This was when he noticed the dog was wearing a collar. The collar surprised him. Seeing its state, Alex initially thought that this dog was a stray. Not only was it injured, but its fur was dirty and full of knots. Angry tears welled up in his eyes as he thought, "How could someone leave their dog like this?" His anger quickly faded, however, as he thought about the situation for a moment. He realized that the dog was probably just lost. What if it had run away from home and hadn't been able to find its way back? Its owners had probably been looking for the dog everywhere, and they must be worried sick. In this moment, Alex promised the dog that he would do everything he could to return it home, and then he noticed that something was written on the collar. Alex carefully cleared away the fur around the collar so he could read it, and when he saw what it was, he froze. He was shocked to see the dog's name, and he tried to shake it off at first, but it immediately brought him back in time. You see, the dog's name was Lana, and a long time ago, Alex and his high school sweetheart Marcy had decided to get a dog and name it Lana. However, they broke up, and they never ended up getting a dog together. "It's just a coincidence," Alex said to himself, and then he noticed that something else was written on Lana's collar as well. It was a number. 3289-17644. "Yes, this will help me bring you home to your family," Alex said as he saved the number in his notes app on his phone. Lana then started licking her injured paw, and Alex understood he needed to hurry. He immediately called his boss, Mrs. Harris, to explain the situation and let her know he was going to be late for work. Luckily, she understood, and she told Alex not to worry. It was not going to be a busy day at work anyway, she said, and Alex appreciated his boss's flexibility very much. Alex lured Lana into the back seat of his car and looked up the address of the nearest veterinary clinic. It was only a 10-minute drive, and when they arrived, he got out of the car and went to speak to the receptionist. He had left Lana in the car, because he had no leash to put on her, and he didn't know how she would react to the other dogs. When he entered the clinic, Alex approached the receptionist and told her about the dog he'd found. He asked if they could check their database for a match, especially for any dog named Lana. The receptionist nodded sympathetically, asking for the number from the collar. She then began typing away, searching for any matches in their system. The receptionist typed in the number from Lana's collar and then tried searching by Marcy's name as well. Alex watched her face, his excitement building as she typed. Maybe this could lead him to Lana's family, he thought. He waited anxiously, tapping his foot on the floor as the receptionist continued to search for any matches in their system. After a few minutes, the receptionist shook her head apologetically. Sorry, but there's no match, she said. Neither the number nor the name brings up any record. Alex felt disappointed, but he wasn't ready to give up. He asked if there was anything else they could do. The receptionist offered to try again, hoping that maybe she had missed something earlier. The receptionist entered the details again into their system, trying different combinations to find any matches. She wanted to help Alex, so she double-checked all the available information. I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can find, she finally said, her face showing genuine concern. Despite the lack of results, she assured Alex that the vet would still examine Lana. She glanced at the waiting room filled with pets and their owners. It's a busy morning, but let me see if our vet can make some time for you and Lana, she said. After speaking to one of the veterinary assistants, she returned with a smile. We'll fit you in shortly. In the meantime, here's a leash so you can bring Lana inside. Alex took the leash from the receptionist and went back to his car. He gently opened the door, not wanting to startle Lana, and spoke to her softly. Hey girl, let's get you inside, he said, as he secured the leash on her collar. Lana, although a bit wary, allowed Alex to lead her out of the car and toward the clinic. With Lana by his side, Alex guided her into the clinic's waiting room, where several other pets and their owners were gathered. The space buzzed with the sounds of barking and meowing. Lana hesitated for a moment, sniffing the air and eyeing the other dogs. Alex gently tugged on the leash, encouraging her to come closer to the front desk. Lana walked cautiously beside Alex, but the crowded waiting room made her uneasy. When another dog approached her, she growled and bared her teeth, making it clear she didn't want to be disturbed. Alex kept a firm hold on the leash, gently pulling her away from the other dogs. Easy, girl, he said softly, trying to calm her down. Noticing Lana's discomfort, Alex knelt beside her and began stroking her fur gently. He murmured soothing words, hoping to reassure her amid the bustling waiting room. Despite the chaos around them, Alex tried to create a calm environment for Lana, who started to relax a bit under his touch. She kept close to him, taking comfort in his presence. The wait was long and uncomfortable, lasting nearly 2 hours. As the time passed, Lana started to howl softly, revealing her pain. Alex petted her gently, doing his best to soothe her distress. "Hang in there, girl," he said, glancing around the room, hoping they'd be seen soon. He knew she needed treatment, and he was growing impatient for the vet to call them in. While waiting, Alex decided to search for Marcy online, hoping to find some clue about her current whereabouts. He scrolled through various profiles, but nothing matched her information. The lack of results frustrated him, but he had no choice but to close his phone and focus on Lana, who was still whimpering in pain. He knew they had to be patient. After what felt like an eternity, the vet finally called Alex and Lana into the examination room. Alex gently guided Lana through the clinic, trying to keep her calm. Once inside, he helped her onto the examination table, stroking her fur to comfort her. "Good girl, you're okay," he whispered, noticing the worry in her eyes. They both waited for the vet. The door opened, and a middle-aged man in a white coat walked in. "Hello, I'm Dr. Daniels," he said with a friendly smile. He approached Lana slowly and began examining her injured paw. She let out a soft whimper as he touched the sensitive area, and Alex held her close. "Let's see what's going on," Dr. Daniels said, concentrating on the paw. After examining the paw, Dr. Daniels said, "It looks like it might be broken, but we need further tests to confirm." Alex felt a pang of concern for Lana. "We'll need to take an X-ray to know for sure," the vet continued, jotting down some notes on his clipboard. He gestured for Alex to follow him to another room for the tests. Dr. Daniels led Alex and Lana to the X-ray room, explaining the process along the way. "This will help us understand the extent of the injury," he said, opening the door and guiding them inside. The room was filled with various medical machines. Dr. Daniels carefully positioned Lana on the table, preparing her for the X-ray. "She'll be all right," he assured Alex. Dr. Daniels studied the X-ray and confirmed that Lana's paw was indeed broken, although how it happened remained a mystery. He explained to Alex that the injury wasn't severe and that a cast would aid in its healing. Lana lay quietly on the table, still visibly in pain, while Dr. Daniels assured Alex that they could help her recover. Dr. Daniels carefully fitted a cast on Lana's paw, explaining to Alex that the fix was simple, but the paw would need time to heal. "She'll need some rest and care for a few weeks," he said, making sure the cast was secure. Lana whimpered slightly, but she remained still, allowing Dr. Daniels to finish. Alex stayed by her side, offering comfort. After the cast was applied, Alex asked Dr. Daniels about contacting Lana's owner. The vet considered for a moment and then said, "I'll consult with my colleagues and check if we have any records. We can also reach out to other clinics." Alex nodded in agreement, grateful for the vet's willingness to help. Lana needed to find her way back home. Dr. Daniels took Alex's details and assured him that he would reach out to other veterinary clinics in the area to try to track down Lana's owner. "We'll do our best to find them," he promised. Alex thanked him and helped Lana off the table. As they left the examination room, Alex felt hopeful that they'd get some answers soon. Alex was hopeful they'd locate Lana's owner, and he was happy that she was finally getting the medical attention she needed. Although he didn't know how long it would take to find her owner, he knew that he would do everything he could to help. For now, he focused on ensuring that Lana was comfortable and cared for as they left the clinic. After leaving the clinic, Alex carefully helped Lana into his car and headed home. He carried her inside, setting her up comfortably in the living room. "You'll be safe here while we figure things out," he said gently. Lana stretched out on the soft bedding Alex laid down, and she seemed to settle in, her eyes following his movements as he prepared food for her. Determined to find Lana's owner, Alex snapped a photo of her and posted it online. He included a brief description of her situation, hoping someone would recognize her and provide a lead. "Found this lovely girl on the highway," he wrote. "She has a cast on her paw and needs to find her way back home. If you recognize her, please reach out." In his online post, Alex asked the community if anyone recognized Lana or knew who her owner might be. He provided details about where he found her and mentioned her distinctive collar. He knew how important it was to spread the word, so he shared the post in several groups. As he refreshed the page, he anxiously hoped for a helpful response. While waiting for responses, Alex ensured Lana was well taken care of. He adjusted the bedding to make her comfortable and gave her fresh water. He tried to keep her calm, offering her gentle pats and speaking to her in a soothing voice. As the days passed, Lana began to trust him more, and she hobbled around, following him wherever he went. Alex continued to monitor his online post for any helpful responses about Lana, refreshing the page often. Despite his efforts, the responses he got were limited and didn't provide any useful information. He started to lose hope, but he knew he had to keep trying. He would keep looking, and with the vet's help, he was determined to find Lana's owner. After a few days, Dr. Daniels reached out to Alex with a possible address for Lana's owner. "It's not much, but it's worth a shot," he said. Alex noted the address and immediately started planning a trip to see if they could find Lana's home. He was hopeful that this lead could finally reunite Lana with the family she belonged to. Alex put Lana in the back seat of his car and drove to the address Dr. Daniels provided. The drive was filled with anticipation, and he couldn't wait to see if Lana would recognize the area. "We'll get you home soon, girl," he reassured her as they neared the location. He was hopeful they would finally find the answers they needed. As they approached the address, Lana began to whine differently, her tail wagging excitedly. Alex sensed that she recognized the neighborhood and slowed the car down, looking for the exact address. He pulled up in front of the house and turned to Lana. "Is this it?" he asked, but she was too excited to respond. He took a deep breath and got out. With Lana on the leash, Alex walked up the path to the house. She was eager, pulling ahead as if she recognized the place. The surroundings seemed familiar to her, and she sniffed around, tail wagging furiously. Alex hoped she had finally found her way home. He reached the front door and paused, gathering his courage before knocking. Lana waited impatiently by his side. Alex knocked on the door, hoping to hear someone coming. Lana stood close to him, ears perked up, but there was no response. He knocked again and waited, but all they were met with was silence. Confused, Alex tried ringing the doorbell this time, but still no answer. Lana paced nervously beside him, clearly anxious about what was happening. Alex stood at the door with Lana, both of them waiting after ringing the doorbell and knocking. The seconds ticked by, and he could feel Lana's impatience as she shifted around. He leaned in, listening carefully for any sign of movement inside the house. The only sounds he could hear, however, were the rustling of leaves and distant traffic. The silence stretched on, and Alex began to think that no one was home. He glanced down at Lana, whose tail had stopped wagging. "Maybe they're not in," he murmured to himself, his shoulders slumping slightly. But before giving up, he decided to try one more time, rapping his knuckles firmly against the door and hoping for a response. As Alex waited, Lana whined impatiently, tugging at the leash in her excitement. She pulled toward the door, clearly eager to enter. Alex held her back gently, trying to calm her. "Easy, girl," he said soothingly, but Lana kept straining forward. She seemed certain this was her home, and Alex couldn't help but feel hopeful despite the silence. Just as Alex was about to leave, he finally heard distinct sounds from inside. His ears perked up, and he listened closely. Footsteps approached the door, and he exchanged a glance with Lana, whose tail began wagging again. "Someone's here," he whispered to her. He could hear the creaking of floorboards and a faint voice before the footsteps grew louder. Finally, he heard the sound of a lock being turned from the other side of the door. The latch clicked, and he felt his curiosity growing. What would happen next? Lana stood by his side, still eager and wagging her tail. Alex took a deep breath, his heart racing as the door began to open, wondering who he would find behind it. Finally, the door opened, and Alex found himself staring at an elderly man. He wasn't who Alex expected to see. Lana, still beside Alex, wagged her tail eagerly. "Hello, sir," Alex began, glancing inside the house. The elderly man stood in the doorway, showing little reaction to either Lana or Alex, simply looking at them with a blank expression. The elderly man appeared tired, with deep lines marking his face. He said nothing as he stood there, his gaze fixed on Alex. Lana whined softly, and Alex pulled the leash tighter, trying to keep her calm. "I found Lana, your dog," he explained, hoping to see recognition in the man's eyes, but there was no noticeable change in his expression. In a sudden burst of energy, Lana broke free from Alex's grip and dashed past the elderly man into the house. "Lana!" Alex called, but she was already gone, disappearing inside. He took a step forward, but the man still blocked the doorway, unmoving. He stared at Alex, leaving him standing on the doorstep, unsure of what to do next. Alex tried to communicate with the elderly man, repeating his words about Lana being his dog, but the man didn't respond. Instead, he just stood there, looking at Alex in silence. "She's injured, and she needs care," Alex said, hoping to get a response. He pulled out the veterinary care note he had brought with him, extending it toward the man. The elderly man took the note from Alex but didn't say a word. He glanced at it briefly before looking back at Alex. Without any further engagement, he slowly closed the door, leaving Alex standing outside. He was left with more questions than answers, confused and unsure about what had just happened. Lana was inside, but Alex had no way to help. Confused by the strange interaction with the elderly man, Alex returned home, pondering the odd behavior. He wondered why the man hadn't acknowledged Lana, considering she ran inside so eagerly. Alex couldn't shake the uneasy feeling as he replayed the interaction in his head. There were more questions than answers, and he felt unsure about what to do next. The next day, while driving along the same road where he'd first found Lana, Alex couldn't believe his eyes. There she was, limping and alone once more. "Lana!" he exclaimed, pulling over to the side of the road. It was like déjà vu. He immediately jumped out of his car, heart pounding as he hurried toward her, calling her name softly. Shocked, Alex reached Lana, recognizing her immediately. She wagged her tail, and he saw she was still wearing the cast. "How did you get out here again?" he wondered aloud, as he guided her toward the car. He opened the door, helping her into the back seat. The feeling of déjà vu was overwhelming as he set off back to his house. As he drove, Alex reflected on the bizarre turn of events. How had Lana ended up back on the highway so soon after being returned to her presumed owner? He wondered if she had escaped again, or if the old man had intentionally let her out. He shook his head, determined to get to the bottom of this strange situation. Back at home, Alex resolved to revisit the old man's house to seek answers about Lana's repeated escape. This time, he hoped the man would give him some kind of explanation. He knew it would take courage, but he felt a sense of responsibility to ensure Lana was safe. His mind was made up as he prepared to head back. Once again, Alex drove Lana back to the presumed owner's house, hoping for a better outcome. He knocked on the door repeatedly and even rang the doorbell a few times, but there was no response. Alex peered through the windows but couldn't see any signs of life. He grew increasingly frustrated as Lana whimpered beside him, sensing her anxiety. Throughout the week, Alex made several attempts to reach the presumed owner, each time with no answer. With every unsuccessful visit, his concern for Lana and her situation grew. He began to question whether anyone was actually living there. The unanswered doorbell and silent house left him feeling uneasy about what might be going on behind those closed doors. Determined to get some answers, Alex turned to the neighbors to inquire about Lana and her owner. He knocked on doors, politely asking if anyone knew the man who lived next door or about the dog. The responses were brief and reluctant. People seemed wary, hesitant to give out any information, which only added to Alex's frustration and concern. Frustrated by the lack of cooperation from the neighbors, Alex took Lana back to his home. He made sure she was comfortable, attending to her with food and water. She seemed to sense his frustration, nuzzling up to him as he patted her gently. As the days passed, Alex became more determined to get to the bottom of this strange mystery. Feeling out of options, Alex decided it was time to involve the police. He explained the situation to them, hoping they could provide some help. But with their resources stretched thin, they prioritized other matters, leaving him without much support. He felt disheartened, but he knew he couldn't give up on Lana. He had to find a way to help her. Undeterred, Alex left a letter in the mailbox at Lana's presumed owner's house. He expressed his confusion about the dog's condition and the lack of response from the house. "Please, reach out if you're there," he wrote, hoping to find some way to communicate. As he sealed the letter, he felt a glimmer of hope that this attempt might finally bring answers. Alex made sure to include his contact information in the letter, hoping for any explanation or response. He left his phone number and email address, expressing a willingness to meet in person. After dropping the letter in the mailbox, he drove back home, hoping for a reply. He kept his phone close, anticipating a call that could bring clarity. Days passed without any word from Lana's presumed owner or the neighbors. Alex grew increasingly worried as the silence continued, each passing day adding to his uncertainty. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't seem to get a response from anyone. He cared for Lana diligently, but he couldn't shake the feeling of unease, wondering what more he could do. Eventually, Alex's persistence seemed futile, until an unexpected visitor appeared at his door. He opened it to find Marcy, his high school sweetheart, and Lana's true owner. She stood there, looking slightly disheveled, but smiling. "Marcy?" Alex asked, shocked to see her after all these years. "Yes, it's me," she said, with a hint of sadness in her voice. Marcy explained she was Lana's true owner, offering clarification on the misunderstandings surrounding the dog. She had entrusted Lana to her father during her frequent work trips, but hadn't realized the challenges this arrangement would cause. "I didn't know she had gone missing," she said, her eyes filling with tears. Alex listened intently, feeling a sense of relief to finally hear the truth. Marcy explained that during her frequent work-related absences, Lana had been cared for by her father. He was getting on in years, which made it difficult for him to keep up with Lana's energy. "I thought she'd be safe with him," Marcy said. Alex nodded, realizing the misunderstanding was due to the father's inability to care for Lana properly. Marcy revealed that Lana often escaped to wait for her by the road, which led to her encounters with Alex. "She's always been attached to me," Marcy said with a sigh. Lana wagged her tail as she sat beside Alex. "I'm sorry for the trouble she caused you," Marcy added. Alex shook his head, reassuring her it was no problem. With the misunderstandings cleared, Alex and Marcy reconnected over their shared concern for Lana. They talked about the dog and how she had brought them back together. "It's been so long since we last saw each other," Marcy said softly. They shared memories of their past and bonded over their love for Lana, whose presence brought them joy once again. Their renewed acquaintance blossomed into a relationship, leading to marriage. With Lana at their side, they built a life together filled with happiness. They enjoyed taking long walks with Lana and spending quiet evenings together. The trials that had once separated them were now a distant memory. Their love for Lana kept them close, and their shared experiences only strengthened their bond. The story concluded with Alex and Marcy's marriage, uniting them and Lana in a happy ending. Surrounded by family and friends, they celebrated their union and reflected on the journey that brought them together. Lana remained a joyful part of their lives, a constant reminder of the love that had been rekindled. Together, they faced the future with hope and happiness.